Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. The Canadians get another win. They're starting a win streak off again. They get the 4-3 win in regulation as well against the Utah Mammoth. A huge win. I mean, obviously there's some things about this game that you'd like to fix. Definitely in the second period there is really the big problem, but overall, like, this is another example of the Canadians finding a way to win, and that's exactly what good teams do. Like, they find a way. Sometimes you're not going to have great periods. You're not going to have great stretches of play. It was literally like a 5-minute stretch of play or whatever in the second period that gave Utah all of the goals they had in this game. But outside of that, the Canadians were fantastic, I thought. A lot of great play, a lot of, pushing the pace offensively, playing strong defensively. Obviously, those 3 goals occur in the second period for Utah, but I don't think any of those are really on Dobes' head. I thought he played a great game. I mean, I think it's undeniable considering the fact that he made 31 saves and against 34 shots from Utah. They absolutely put on the pressure at times. Like, they looked absolutely they looked like the quickest team in the NHL for that whole entire second period. Like, we just could not hold them. But Dobes did his best there. He gave us a chance to win. I think he definitely deserved that win today. So good to see there. Obviously, I think we'll probably see Montembeault come in for the game on Friday. I still have faith in him, but anyway, we'll talk about this game first. Obviously, starting with a Zach Bolduc power play goal, great shot, and that's exactly what we traded for him for. Is that one-timer ability he's got? They're putting him kind of on the side wall there a little bit. That's where he scored that goal from. I still don't love the way that our first power play is set up, but it is working for us, kind of, in this game. So a nice goal from him. Hudson obviously doing what he does best, making that pass. Suzuki gets an assist on that one. So a great way to start the game. And then Nick Suzuki gets his 6th of the season off of a nice pass from Cole. Bolduc gets another assist there. So a really great night from Bolduc, who has been very quiet ever since the beginning of October, in my opinion anyway. But a great first period. We get up 2. We're feeling pretty confident. I feel like the ice was pretty tilted in our direction. Obviously, Utah had their chances, but I felt like Montreal was definitely the better team in that first 20 minutes. And then the second period came around, and 3 goals within like 5 minutes or something like that for Utah, which is not what you'd like to see. But we're really, like, I just felt like the second period rolled around, and the Utah Mammoth they were so quick. They were so tenacious on their forecheck, and they were just flying into the offensive zone. Like, the Canadians just looked really flat-footed against them. They just couldn't find a way to stop them from their offense. And a lot of the goals they scored, I felt like, were a product of just, like, the Canadians had chances to get the puck out and just couldn't quite do it. There's just, like, just absolutely tenacious forecheck coming from Utah in the offensive zone leads the Canadians to make defensive errors, and they're able to capitalize on those. So I don't really think Dobes is really at fault for any of those. It's just kind of defensive collapses. But you also have to credit where credit's due to the Mammoth offense and their defense as well, for how they played in that second period. They were really strong, and then they bled that into the third period as well. But I think the Canadians found their footing there. But just the way that they were able to score 3 goals, in that 5-minute stretch, really impressive for Utah. But the Canadians were able to hold on, and then we go into the third period. Nick Suzuki gets another one. Well, first of all, Slavkovsky scores a really great goal. I mean, it's unfortunate it gets called back, but Hudson's able to make a nice pass down low, and Slavkovsky's able to one-time it from a really sharp angle, and puts that pass to Vejmelka. But unfortunately, it was called back because Slav was, like, literally a millimeter offside, and it was offside. I'm not gonna argue the call or anything like that. It's just like that's such a tough thing. It's just like those are the goals that get called back where you're like, is that really, like, in the spirit of the offsides rule or whatever? Like, that's like one of those things where it's just like it's just ridiculous that gets called offside, because how effective was Slavkovsky really being 1 inch more in the zone than he was anyway, and like the play had already, like, developed after that, to the point, like, up to when we scored the goal. So it was really just so inconsequential. But the rules are the rules, and it's unfortunate that it happens to a guy like Slav too, who's definitely in need of getting back on the goal and the goals side of the score sheet there. But unfortunate. But Nick Suzuki makes sure that we don't have to worry about it for too long, because he's able to bury a rebound. Bolduc gets a really nice shot off of an initial shot from Gallagher that goes off the crossbar, but it goes off the crossbar right over towards where Nick Suzuki is standing, and he's able to get another shot on net, and that one beats Vejmelka. That's his second goal of the game. So it's a really nice, obviously a really great game from Nick Suzuki, but really opportunistic there. First of all, the shot from Bolduc is great, but then the presence of mind to be able to throw that right back on net after the fact, super big from Suzuki, and that gives us that tie. And I'll be honest with you, as soon as that play got called, the Slavkovsky goal got called back for offsides, I was thinking like the Canadians are losing this game. Like, I don't think, especially with how emotional the Canadians have played and how young they are, I felt like, a goal getting called back in a big moment like that where it would tie the game, I felt like the Canadians, might get in their heads a little bit and lose some confidence after that one gets called back, and they wouldn't be able to keep it together. But Suzuki puts that to bed really quickly, and I'm really impressed with the response that they had there. And then obviously Ivan Demidov gets his fifth goal of the season, like a minute in a couple seconds later. A really nice shot. Like, he's able to, first of all, he gets crushed on the boards on the previous attempt. Going into the zone, he gets crushed. He gets right back up, gets right back into the play. Goes through the neutral zone, and then Noah Dobson is able to find Kapanen is able to find him. Noah Dobson finds Kapanen, and Kapanen slings it up to Demidov, who's going back into the zone, and then it's a 1-on-1, and then Demidov just shows off his offensive abilities. He's able to just kind of toe drag it, change the angle a little bit, and snipes it off the far, kind of off the post, just into the right side of the net, and that's a huge goal. Obviously, ended up being the game-winning goal, but that's like when we play Demidov, period, just putting him on the ice, good things happen, and he proves that there. So good for him. I might be wrong, but I feel like that's his first game-winning goal. I'm not sure, but it was a great goal nonetheless, and it was a huge momentum shifter for the Canadians as well. Being down 3-2, and then getting two goals within 2 minutes or so, to kind of shift the ice back into our direction, which is exactly what we needed to do. We needed to tilt the ice going into the third period. Suzuki and Demidov do exactly that, and then that holds for the rest of the game. I mean, and I feel like that's where Dobes really came alive. I mean, like, he was definitely shaky at times, and I feel like we've seen that from him throughout his career and his time this season. He's had some shaky moments and all that kind of stuff, but I felt like as soon as we got that lead, I felt like he really he locked in and got very focused and made some huge saves. A couple of great chances for Utah that were stoned away from by Dobes, and that's exactly what you need, especially when we're nursing a 1-goal lead, and we had so many opportunities to hit the empty net that we couldn't quite capitalize on. But he was strong. He was strong throughout the entire thing, and that was a huge reason why we won. He doesn't get on the 3 stars, but I feel like he should have. 31 saves for a rookie goaltender is huge. So yeah, I feel like that's a big deal, and I feel like that's a big confidence booster for him. A guy who hasn't necessarily been playing well as of late, but neither of our goalies have been. So that's just the way it goes. But yeah, so a great win overall, and that's what I've been saying, is just like this is a sign of a good team, in my opinion. Is a team that can, despite the adversity and all that kind of stuff, they find a way to make things work. Whatever, no matter what happens, right? Like, I feel like there was definitely a moment in that second period. There were times throughout the entirety of that second period where it looked like the Canadians were going to collapse and they were going to lose this game, but they were able to find their way back into the game. And I think, the Canadians were definitely the better team throughout, most of this game, but they were able to just like find their way back in. I don't know what was said in the locker room or whatever going into that third period, but they found their way to get back into the game, and that's exactly what they needed to do, and that's exactly what got them the win. So a huge win there for the Canadians, super big. Outside of the win itself, some new face. We got a new face in the game today. We had Engstrom making his debut. I thought he was all right. I mean, he didn't necessarily get a whole lot of puck touches. especially, near the end of the game when it was a tight game. We were nursing that 1-goal lead. But generally speaking, I thought he was pretty solid when he needed to make passes. He was making passes, and I don't think there was a moment where he really got exposed all that much on defense. So that's exactly what you needed to see from him in his first game. And obviously, nobody's going to be, absolutely fantastic in their first game playing with a team. So, that's exactly what you needed. He played almost 11 minutes of time. Was dead even on the plus minus there. So, pretty good for him. I feel like. Yeah, he had one. I feel like the one memorable thing that he did out there was he got a nice. He took a nice kind of slap shot on net from kind of out wide after an initial shot was taken, I think, by Jack Eye or something like that. He was able to get a shot on. That could have gone in. But I like to see him having an offensive mindset, and I didn't really feel like he was. Out of sorts in any way defensively or anything like that. So I felt like he played really solid there. Obviously, it's his first game. You're not going to be amazing, but especially considering the way he's been playing in Laval, he had like a 5-point night the other day, which is ridiculous. So I feel like it was due time for him to get called up, and I feel like he played really well. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him in these upcoming games. We got a back-to-back against some of the best teams in the NHL. Obviously, Vegas. I feel like Vegas hasn't necessarily been playing the way that you would think they would be. They're in the top of the wild card right now, tied with the Canadiens for points. I'm not sure if they're playing right now. Yeah, they are playing right now. So I think that is pending on their ending of the game against the Senators. But either way, I think it's definitely a really solid team. So them and obviously the Avalanche, who are just an absolute juggernaut in the NHL right now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do lineup-wise in general, if they go back to Jack Eye or if they continue with Engstrom and what happens offensively. It'll be interesting to see if they keep, like I said this last one too, and obviously it didn't change, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with the offensive lineups, if they try to put Slavkovsky back up on the first unit or on the first line, but I don't know. I feel like it's been working to an extent. I feel like there are times when I feel like the first line struggles a little bit without Slavkovsky on it. I feel like that chemistry isn't quite as strong with Bolduc there. Although Bolduc had a 3-point night, so you can't really complain about his performance all that much either. But it should be interesting what they do, especially considering. We got some really tough opponents coming up, and it's like if you look through all the way to Christmas, the Canadiens have a really tough go of it. They've got 5 back-to-backs throughout that span. They play a ton of games against some really strong opponents all the way through. So this will really be a stretch of time like this month. From the end of November to the end of December, where we see are the Canadiens for real? Or are they going to fall behind and have to do some catching up, in the end of the season? I think that's definitely what happened to the Canadiens last season. Is we felt like we were kind of in it, but then we definitely fell back a little bit, and then had to do a lot of catching up in the post Four Nations after February into April. So I think the most amount of points that we can get right now for the Canadiens in this first half of the season, the less work the Canadiens are going to have to do to fight back into the playoffs coming into like the end of the season. So it should be really interesting, and outside of the playoff picture and anything anyway, it'll be a really good test for the Canadiens to see. Definitely on a tight schedule against some really tough teams, can they still compete? Can they still find a way to play their game instead of chasing anybody else's game? So that's the biggest things. Going to Friday, we got an afternoon game on Friday in Vegas. So continuing a really tough road trip here, but continue to play like we played in period 1 and 3 in this game, and I feel like we got a good chance against any team we come up against. We got guys from all over the lineup scoring goals for us. Obviously, Nick Suzuki scoring. We'd love to see Cole Caulfield get back into the score sheet. He had a breakaway tonight that he didn't quite capitalize on. But, generally speaking, I think he had 1 or 2 points or whatever. But, Cole recently anyway, I feel like he's been playing really, really solid. He's been one of our best players He definitely wants to, make an impression on Bill Guerin in the U.S. team. Although, if I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like he's not going to make the team only because I think Bill Guerin is just, for whatever reason, Bill Guerin just doesn't like guys that aren't 6'4" or whatever. So it's like he's just gonna look him off just because he's small, which is ridiculous, and that's the exact reason why everybody else has looked him off. And for like he's one of the best goal scorers in the league, but it makes absolutely no sense that he would be looked off just because he like doesn't hit like Tom Wilson. It's ridiculous, but. We'll see what happens, but either way, he's definitely making a case for himself. I think he's one of the best players on our team, and he's proving it on a nightly basis. So if we can get him back onto the score sheet, find him. I think maybe even moving the power play around a little bit might help because I feel like he's really locked down on that current power play setup. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. You just got some tough opponents coming up, but it'll be a great test for the Canadians. But yeah, that all remains to be seen. So that's all I have for you guys today. I will see you hopefully after another win. Get the win streak going. Some really tough opponents coming up. So Canadians got to stick to their game, and they'll get some points hopefully. So yep, that's all I got for you today. So I will see you guys on Friday.